in the First Blood Ford. Kurt Fisher, the brash new driver for veteran John Breen in the Micro Machines Chevrolet team from Missouri. Both these trucks will do battle against some of the toughest machines in the world. In the face as he intentionally propels himself towards this steel wall. Carson, who has miraculously survived several death-defying stunts already this year on ESPN, may be up against his toughest chore yet. The highest, heaviest, and wildest steel wall he's ever driven head-on into in a passenger car. Welcome to the 1991 Monster Truck Challenge Series. To the 1991 Monster Truck Challenge Series. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Roanoke Civic Center in Roanoke, Virginia. As you can see, a packed house of monster truck racing fans are getting ready for qualifying for this 8-truck field. And the very first machine up against the elapsed time clock, shooting for a position in the show, is the machine that did the tremendous amount of damage in the 1990 U.S.HRA Association World Tour. This is St. Louis, Missouri's John Plant at the wheel of Bob Chandler's legendary Bigfoot Ford. A 4-foot-high dirt mogul just off the starting line, then a huge line of crush cars. Pyatt on the brakes hard and stops it within inches of the wall. That may be a harbinger of things to come. It may be tight down there, but the elapsed time to beat, put up by Pyatt, 4.11 seconds. Here's the killer of the 1991 season so far, Rob Fusion, the First Blood Ford. A nosedive at the finish line, but he keeps it straight. The elapsed time for the homebrewed machine, 3.98 seconds. And by 1300ths of a second, Fuge takes over the #1 spot from Bigfoot. That'll bring up Ken Deppy's beautiful Whiskey Business rear-engine Chevrolet. Deppy conservative off the starting line, then taking a wild bounce when he got a little more aggressive down at the finish line. But the elapsed time for the Chevy, an exceptional 3.99 seconds. And Deppy moves into second ahead of Bigfoot. That'll bring the Ohio-based Weapon 1 Chevrolet of Jerry Richmond up. Again, conservative off the starting line, and even conservative down near the finish line. A couple of wild bounces, but the Weapon 1 Chevrolet records a 4.10, and as you can see, that'll knock Bigfoot all the way down to #4 with just 4 trucks having run. But still to come is the brash new kid on the block, Kurt Fisher and Mike Wine in the Jersey Outlaw Ford. Stay with us. We're back at the Roanoke Civic Center in Roanoke, Virginia, as we continue qualifying for this U.S.HRA Association Monster Truck Showdown. And so far, it's been the Fords that have dominated. The #1 qualifying spot, Rob Fusion, the First Blood F350 at 3.98 seconds, is leading. But here is the unknown quantity in this field. The new kid, Kurt Fisher, at the wheel of the Micro Machines Chevrolet. A rough landing on the brakes hard. He'll stop it before he hits the retaining wall. But the elapsed time, 3.77 seconds. In his first race, Fisher gets the #1 spot away from the Fords. Coming up next, a machine that debuted at the last U.S.HRA Association National Championship event of the 1990 season in Houston, Texas. An incredible piece of equipment that, as you can see, has already developed quite a fan club. Marty Garza's rear-engined Overkill Ford. Although it looked like Garza was conservative off the starting line, I have a feeling that was more fuel delivery problems than anything else. The elapsed time, a disappointing 4.97 seconds. But coming up next, probably the most popular Ford-bodied and powered monster truck on the eastern seaboard. Mike Wine and the Super Winch sponsor, Jersey Outlaw, obviously from the state of New Jersey, which has had more than its fair share of success this season, battling killers like Rob Fuge. Wine and the machine has always proven to be one of the quickest and fastest trucks out there, but this year recently has been hard on parts. And as you can see, it looks like Mike Wine is being held up on the starting line for some reason by the officials. Finally, they give him the green. And they give him the green, and Wine just idles it off the starting line. Finally getting after it down near the finish line, but apparently, obviously knowing that he could easily cruise into the field, he does so with a 4.98 second elapsed time that'll right now put him in the number 7 position. But the big story in qualifying was the kid, Kurt Fisher, at the wheel of John Breen's Micro Machine Chevy, taking the pole at 377 over the man who has dominated this sport this season, the incredible Rob Fusion, the First Blood Ford. But coming up, we've got side-by-side monster truck eliminations, including the Big Blue Ford, Bigfoot, and that new kid, Kurt Fisher. Stay with us. Here at the Roanoke Civic Center in Roanoke, Virginia, a packed house of fans is now ready. We've determined the qualifying positions. Now it's time for side-by-side monster truck eliminations. And the very first machine wheeling around is the surprise number 3 qualifier in this field, Ken Deppy, against this piece of equipment. Probably the best-known four-wheeler in automotive history, John Pyatt at the wheel of the Bigfoot Ford. Deppy's Whiskey Business qualified number 3, while Bigfoot ended up number 5 in this program, as John Pyatt was the first man out in qualifying and took the course very conservatively. As it turned out, the drivers behind him got more aggressive and knocked the Big Blue Ford down from its customary top 3 qualifying spots. Deppy's rear-engine Whiskey Business Chevrolet, definitely the underdog here, though. And certainly he's going to have to try and gain some kind of starting line advantage. The whole shot is needed here because nobody would underestimate the ability of the Bigfoot Ford after just one qualifying effort. Waiting for the green light. And the whole shot goes to the Chevrolet. But Pyatt and the Ford drives around for the win by less than 5 feet. What a comeback for the Bigfoot team. This time around, it'll be Jerry Richmond in the far lane in the Weapon 1 Chevy against Mike Wine in the Jersey Outlaw. The Chevy qualified number 4. The Ford in the number 7 spot with that easy run. Something wrong up at the starting line. Jerry Richmond is upset. And now the starting line crew is going up and talking to Mike Wine in a rather stern manner. And the crowd doesn't like it one bit. Jerry Richmond out of the truck saying, what's the deal? It appeared that Mike Wine may have started rolling forward as the trucks were staging and moved well ahead of the starting line. But Richmond is upset. Talking things over with the starting line crew, asking why the start was not the way it was supposed to be. And the crowd apparently is behind the Chevrolet driver. Now it looks like it's going to be a conference between the 2 drivers. And Jerry Richmond is obviously upset with the starting line annex of Mike Wine. It appears that Wine may have also damaged something in the drivetrain on the starting line. Jerry Richmond now obviously asking whether or not this is going to be a solo run. And the starting line officials say it will be a single into the semifinal round. Apparently Mike Wine did do some damage to the drivetrain of the Jersey Outlaw during that starting line escapade. And Richmond's truck bogs right off the starting line. It comes back around at the finish, but Richmond is actually lucky he didn't have an opponent in the other lane when the Chevrolet stumbled as the green light came on. Unbelievable. That will bring out Rob Fusion, the First Blood Ford, the young independent from Illinois who qualified in the number 2 position. But we've just received some interesting news from the pit area. Fuge was originally supposed to be competing against Marty Garza's brand new rear-engined Overkill Ford. Now, if you remember during the Overkill's qualifying run, it sounded like the truck was suffering from fuel delivery problems right off the starting line. We've just found out that apparently there were more than those problems back in the pits, and Marty Garza has elected to withdraw from competition. But that brings up an interesting situation to hand for Rob Fuge. Right now, he has a rare opportunity to make a run against the clocks and try and find the 0.2 of a second that separates the First Blood Ford from Kurt Fisher in the Micro Machine Chevrolet. Remember, it was Fisher who put down that 3.77-second qualifying run that led the field by almost 0.2 of a second, and now Fuchs has got to be concerned about that lack of performance compared to the current leader. Fuchs inches forward to stage. He'll take the green. Rather conservative off the starting line for Rob Fuchs, but the elapsed time a surprising 4.26 seconds. That's the slowest run he's made in this event so far, and that will pose an interesting situation for this young man. Kurt Fisher, the new kid on the block, as they are calling him, in the Micro Machine Chevrolet of veteran John Breen from Missouri. Now, he'll have a chance to see what he can produce because, as we pointed out earlier, Bennett Clark in the Clydesdale Chevrolet suffered severe breakage during his qualifying attempt, and we knew ahead of time he most likely would not be making the first round of competition. With no other alternates available, Fisher will get a single run into the semifinals like Rob Fuchs, but it will be interesting to compare the elapsed time of the Micro Machine Chevrolet on this run to the 4.26-second run just laid down by Rob Fuchs. The kid checks the gauges, gives the thumbs up sign. He's ready to take the green. And a beautiful run, easing it off the starting line. The elapsed time, 4.06 seconds. Yes, indeed, it did slow down from his qualifying run, but he still puts a 0.2 of a second cushion between himself and the first blood entry as they go to the semifinal round. And we'll see a couple of interesting pairings in that particular round of competition, including Kurt Fisher, the Micro Machines, against the legendary Bigfoot Ford. It will be wild. Don't you dare go away. We're back in the Roanoke Civic Center in Roanoke, Virginia, as we get ready for the semifinal round of this U.S. Association Monster Truck War. The final four are ready to go, and this matchup alone is worth the price of admission. The Bigfoot Ford of legendary Bob Chandler takes on the Micro Machine Chevrolet that has been the biggest surprise of this event. The new kid behind the wheel, Kurt Fisher, puts the goggles on and gets ready to take on the most famous truck in motorsports history. John Pyatt backs up to the starting line over the 4-foot-high dirt moguls that sit only a few feet off the ready line. And you have to wonder what's going through this kid's mind. It is first ever U.S. Association National Championship event. Here he is lined up against the all-time killer. The Bigfoot team pilot appears to be ready. The machine goes into a forward gear. As the blue Ford moves forward to the ready line, they wait for the green. And the kid gets a huge hole shot and holds it to the finish line. The Bigfoot Ford tried to come on hard, but couldn't make up the difference. That race was won strictly on the starting line ability of young Kurt Fisher. Incredible upset. Even though the Micro Machines entry qualified better than Bigfoot, you still have to consider a Bigfoot loss a surprise in any U.S. Association event. There you see the hole shot. Bigfoot closed the gap near the finish line, but still lost out by a solid half truck length. Absolutely incredible job for the kid. And Fisher will take on the winner of this battle. The Weapon 1 Chevrolet of Jerry Richmond out of Ashtabula, Ohio. Probably the most upset we've ever seen this guy in the first round of competition after a heated starting line staging war with Mike Wine and the Jersey Outlaw Ford. Will take on probably the single toughest truck in U.S. Association competition this year. The machine that we have already featured on ESPN from a variety of angles, not the least of which is the fact that as opposed to the $100,000 high-tech team trucks in this sport, the incredible First Blood Ford was built in Rob Fuchs's backyard garage. Fuchs spins the heavyweight Ford F-350 around. That's the way to stage up a monster truck. The crowd loves it. Jerry Richmond, for the second time in a row, is stuck waiting on the starting line. But this time around, it was the Weapon 1 driver's initiative to go in first and get ready. Now Rob Fuchs, you see the rather heavy-duty neck brace that Fuchs has opted to wear this season. Wrapped around underneath the helmet. He is staged and ready. The winner goes to the final. And both trucks bog, but First Blood comes back at the finish line to win in less than 5 feet. For the first time this year on ESPN, we have seen 2 trucks run into the exact same problem at the exact same point in the course. Regardless, Fuchs will advance to the final round to take on the brash new kid, Kurt Fisher, in the Micro Machines Chevrolet. Meanwhile, in Tampa, Florida, the action is just as intense as a crowd of over 50,000 screaming race fans is ready to witness this man do what he does best. Quite simply, survive. He'll take a full-body passenger car up these ramps and into this mountain of metal. Brian Carson, one of the world's most legendary stuntmen, will perform his art in front of a packed house here at Tampa Stadium. A 1971 Chevy Chevelle with a 350 cubic inch engine, picked on the basis of its horsepower and its heavy weight. You need the mass to hit that wall and try and blast through it rather than get stuck to it. Right now, though, Carson steps into the cockpit of the machine and puts on his sole mode of safety equipment, the lap belt and the fireproof Nomex head sock from Speed Sport uniforms and the fireproof gloves. Remember that Brian Carson's claim to fame is that he drives passenger cars into these mountains of metal without the benefit of a roll cage or roll bar. As Brian Carson himself has said so many times before on the 1991 U.S. Auto Association Monster Truck Challenge Series, a daredevil creates the illusion of danger, while the kind of man that I am simply stares it in the face. Carson must achieve a speed, believe it or not, of 62 miles per hour on dirt when he hits the ramps. And notice that the ramps themselves are 2 independent ramps. He's got to have this car lined up perfectly within a foot either way to hit this jump and make it successfully into that stack of vehicles. The biggest difficulty for this particular attempt is the fact that in order to enter Tampa Stadium, Carson must come in from outside the stadium itself and make a hard left turn at speed in order to line up with the ramps. Remember, no roll bar, no roll cage, simply a lap belt, a helmet, and fire equipment. Here comes Brian Carson, ready for his attempt. He slows the machine down, rides it up the ramp, and takes one last look at the giant red X that marks the spot where he hopefully will impact that wall at 62 miles per hour. The crowd obviously behind him all the way, sending up huge cheers to wish him on his way to a hopefully successful attempt here in Tampa Stadium. Lot area. Brian Carson must make a complete U-turn and line up in what is originally a maintenance equipment entrance. The crowd waits, holding their breath, and here comes the Speed Sport Chevelle. Carson makes the turn on dirt, now floors the throttle. Unbelievable impact. The car upside down. Everything around the impact point is on fire. There you see the car upside down, charred from the flaming impact. The ground crew spraying fire extinguishers inside the car itself, but look at the fires burning around the floor upon impact. But still no word at this point for the safety crews on the ground of Carson's condition. It looked like the car may have dropped the nose slightly just before impact, which is one of the worst possible scenarios for Brian Carson. You must hit that wall straight, perfectly head on, or the car is going to flip, or at very worst, hit the actual wall with the roof of the car. And when you're not dealing with a roll cage, it's the worst possible situation. Now we finally see Carson out of the machine. He appears to be moving, but he is obviously not on his feet yet. Carson being helped up by the paramedics, and he's on his feet. Unbelievable.
Brian, do you feel like talking at this point? Your big concern was making that left-hand turn on dirt, and you told us that you might not even be able to hit 50 before you made that turn. You're going to have to make up the rest of the 15 miles an hour or so between there and the ramps. You did it. It was a perfect hit, but I've never seen such a fireball.
I'll tell you, it was hot in there, and all week we didn't know if we could get the speed, and Jimmy Harris and SRO and pace, and they worked with us, and you know, this place is made for the Giants to win football games, not for us car stunts.
It is absolutely incredible that you would even attempt this risk, because quite frankly, you know as well as the rest of us that a lot of people said you're a fool, and this is one you're not going to get out of. It can't be done, yet you insisted on trying it. Why?
Well, there's a lot of people in this business, and they say they're going to do this and that, and all you can do is keep your word and try to live up to it. I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen, and I think we got a hell of a wreck here. All I can say is God bless you, Tampa Bay. God bless the USA. Thank you.
Brian Carson, simply unbelievable. But as if that was not wild enough, coming up, we've got the Monster Truck Championship Dash. Ford and Chevrolet. Don't go away.
You probably...
We're back at the Roanoke Civic Center in Roanoke, Virginia, as we prepare for the final battle. The final two drivers left. There's Rob Fuchs' trademark spin to stage. The number 1 and number 2 qualifiers, Ford and Chevy, Missouri and Illinois. Kurt Fisher, in his first ever U.S.HRA Association race, takes on the winningest truck of the year. And another hole shot for the kid. First blood cannot make up the difference. In his first U.S.HRA Association event ever, Fisher wins.
Kurt, this is your first win for 1991.
First weekend I've been out since 1990, so I feel real good about it. We had a good night. Last week we had a little breakage, but this time we came out on top.
So are you pleased with the performance of the truck? Last time you didn't have very good luck out here.
Yeah, I'm real pleased. Tonight, for some reason, just everything went our way, and we wanted it, and we got it.
Congratulations again, Kurt.
Thank you.
Kurt Fisher takes the win over First Blood in a final round of competition at the Roanoke Civic Center.
Certainly one has to admit that Brian Carson does things that nobody else would dare do. But in this particular instance, one of the single most violent stunts we have ever witnessed, he walked out unscathed yet again. Another incredible job for Brian Carson.
And that's a wrap from the Roanoke Civic Center in beautiful Roanoke, Virginia. I'm Kris Chapman. Good night. I've had a great time. I'm sure you at home have. We'll see you next time.
This has been a GRB Entertainment production in association with ESPN.